Greg Cosell joins us now from NFL Films and NFL Matchup. Greg, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing okay, guys. How you doing?
We're doing well. The Titans have a bye week, so there's that.
Yes, they do.
It's much needed at 2-4 and with the quarterback with a high ankle sprain. So we'll try to figure all that out. Let me start with this. Coming out of the Ravens game in London, how did the offensive line for the Titans hold up?
Do you really need me to answer that question?
I mean, they're trying everybody at left tackle. Have they called you yet?
I probably will be next, but I would say it's a little bit of a concern. It's a major area of concern for the Titans. I quite frankly think their whole offensive line is a major area of concern, and it's kind of tough to play offense that way.
Yeah. So are there any bright spots, or is it like pass protection and run game?
I would say if you're letting the tape be your guide, you'd
Yes.
probably say it's both.
Yikes. What about Nicolas?
I see that left you guys speechless.
I mean, Don said yikes. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah. No, it left us speechless. And then I was like, wait, we have to follow up on this. Okay.
Well, they benched a guy that they paid $30 million so he
I
can go sit
know.
on the sideline and count his money, I
that
guess.
Cosell told us the tape wasn't good from the get-go the minute they signed him. But anyway, what about Nicolas Petit-Frere? Obviously put in a tough situation where he hasn't played real football in a while and wasn't even around the facility because of that suspension. But what did you see from him on tape and how he handled it?
Yeah, he obviously came in to play left tackle after the first possession of the third quarter. I thought that he had some really good run game snaps.
Yes.
And that's where I thought he looked his best. Even initially, he pass protected pretty well. Had a few breakdowns as the game went on. One that was really not his fault. That probably looked to a lot of people as if it was, but it wasn't. But then he did struggle a bit later in the fourth quarter once Willis came in the game. Again, I don't know if they plan on making that change. They have a lot of self-scouting and evaluation to do during the bye week. So we'll see what happens when they come out and play Atlanta, by the way, who's a very good team, a very good defensive team as well. I hate to say they don't have great pass rushers, but that's true of the team they just played as well, the Ravens, and they sure made some of those guys look very good. So I don't want to say that, but they've got to figure this out to some degree because and I've been saying this for quite a while, guys, and you know that, and I'm just telling you what the tape shows is that it short circuits your offense. That's the problem. So you have to try to play offense to camouflage a major weakness. And in this league, if a major weakness is your O-line, it's hard to play.
I thought the bubble screen call late in the game was a good call.
You mean the 48-yarder to Spears?
Yeah, the ball was out of Malik's hands in less than 2 seconds. I like that.
Yeah, what do you hear about, who's going to play quarterback?
It's up in the air. So Tannehill not doing anything this week. They're not going to even address it until next week. But the thought is that obviously he's going to miss he had the same injury last year and missed 2 games. So they've got the bye week, and then they've got the Falcons, but then they have the short week with a road trip to Pittsburgh. So the thought
is that a Thursday nighter?
Yeah. So the thought is that he, not being told this, but the thought is that he may miss 2 games. So
I mean, the feeling could be that he'll miss those 2, and then look, we were discussing this in my matchup room today because we all watch tape, and there's 5 of us, and that's my matchup team, and we're all watching tape and talking ball, that's what we do. And we're trying to think about where do the Titans go? They're not going to, at this point, they're not going to say, oh, this season's gone. No. First of all, Vrabel would never think like that, nor should he.
Right.
But, you wonder at what point do you think, okay, do we have to try to figure some things out? And some things are going to be a work in progress, and that's going to cause some problems in some games, maybe not in some other games, depending on the nature of the opponent. But do we start trying to think in terms of, hey, let's kind of try to figure it out on the fly and see where we go with this and just live with the results?
All right, so what did you see from Malik Willis? Was it tough to evaluate the tape because of the pass rush and the inadequacies of the offensive line, or could you evaluate him?
I watched Willis his last 2 years at Liberty, and I've seen every snap in the NFL, including preseason. And I'm just going to tell you, from someone who's studied quarterbacks for a long time, people can take this for what it's worth. I've been taught by the best at the quarterback position. There's not really any improvement in Willis. He still has too many concerning snaps in which he does not process the routes versus the coverage, with the result that he does not turn the ball loose to open receivers. He almost has no pocket feel. He's overreactive to any opposing jersey color. For someone who can run fast and can get out of the pocket, he doesn't really have great vision on the move. So he doesn't really see downfield. And you have to understand one thing. I'm sure a lot of people listening are saying this. They're saying, well, with a bad offensive line, you want to put him out there because he can run around. But that just reinforces his bad habits. So, does it work short term? Maybe he'll make a few plays because he can run around better than Tannehill and better than Levis, but it's not going to allow him to improve in the areas in which he needs to improve to play quarterback.
Wow, we've been saying it.
Yeah, I mean, wow.
And then you said it's so
just telling you what the tape shows, gentlemen.
Yeah.
And lady.
Yeah. So let's go back to what your evaluation of Will Levis was coming out of college when the Titans drafted him, because we're all in agreement in this room to go ahead and get the game plan ready, let him get the number one snaps and trot him out there. Not that, I mean, he's still going to have to deal with the offensive line issues, of course, as a guy who's never taken an NFL snap.
Right.
But I am curious to go back and kind of revisit what you thought about him.
Well, let me say this to start so people they understand that if he does play, he's going to have a lot of bad snap guys. I'm telling you right now. Because, he's not a runaround guy. He's not a bad athlete by any means, but he's not a runaround guy. I think that he's going to have to learn in the NFL about defense. It's going to take some time. So he's going to have some head-scratching plays if he plays. And he'll have some bad interceptions where you go, oh, my God, what could he possibly have been looking at? I think ideally I saw him as someone that would have to transition early in his career in an offense that starts with the run game, which theoretically this offense does, and be helped by play action. But he's very stiff in the pocket, and that's one thing that concerned me watching his college tape. He's got a snap, compact, velocity delivery. He can throw the football at all levels. I think he needs to work on his pace and touch. But I think that he's the kind of quarterback that if they decide they want to put him out there, guys, and let's say they say, hey, we're going to put him out there 3-4 games, he's going to have some bad snaps. I'm telling you right now, that's going to happen. But you have to work through all that. He's not going to be one of those guys that steps right in and looks good from day one and you go, wow, this guy's got it. He may get there. No one can answer that. But obviously the Titans believe he will get there or they wouldn't have traded up to draft him. But he will struggle at times for sure.
So could you make that point about Malik that he needs time to work through those things? Or have you seen enough?
I don't think he sees the field very well, and I think that's always a concern. And normally, nothing's 100%, but normally that doesn't change. And by the way, that's the way he played in college. He was a one-read guy, and then he ran, and that's what he did. So he doesn't really have any experience with that. Will Levis, at least in his final 2 years at Kentucky, played for 2 NFL offensive coordinators. So he's well schooled, at least mentally, in NFL route concepts and combinations. So he at least knows all that. Plus, he knows the under center play action pass game. So these are things he knows. So he's been schooled in all of that. He'll be ahead of the curve in that regard.
Okay. That makes sense. Greg Cosell with us on 3HL.
You want to switch to the defensive side of the ball?
Well, I've got one more offense if you want to do that. What are you seeing with Derrick Henry? Because when you look at his numbers, 12 carries, 97 yards, and a touchdown. When you break through the numbers, he did have the 63-yard run where he did have ramp-up time to get going and get that speed going. Outside of that, 11 for 34. Have you seen anything different in terms of Derrick Henry falling off this year, or is he himself?
Boy, I feel like I'm like Scrooge in this today, but I don't think he looks the same to me.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
I said I feel like I'm Scrooge in this call today. I don't think he looks the same to me. I thought it was clear on that 63-yarder that he doesn't have the same long speed that he once had. I thought in general he didn't look as quick. So yeah, I think I don't want to sit here and say he's done. I would never say that. But I don't think he looks exactly the same. No.
So what do you see from Tyjae Spears? Do you see like an ability level where that guy, they can transition to him at some point next year, I guess theoretically?
No. I think, and this gets to the long-term thinking, which, don't forget that Carthon and Vrabel, now that we're in the middle of a season, have different points of view. Vrabel's just trying to win the next game and the game after that and the game after that. Rand is trying to think about, hey, how do I put together a team that's going to contend for a Super Bowl as we move forward? So to me, and I love Tyjae Spears. I loved his tape coming out. Yeah, I'm not sure that he's a feature back in the way Henry's a feature back. That's the thing. I mean, I think your offense would have to be different if you decide that Spears is your back. I don't think Spears is the guy you're going to give the ball to 26 times a game, depending on the game. I don't think he's that guy. But yet I think he's a really, really good player.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, when they drafted him, you kind of said, like, they tell you what they want to be, big picture-wise, by who they draft. And they drafted a running back mid-round last year. They draft Spears this year. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you said that Spears could be a number one type guy in a conglomerate running back setting.
And in an offense that is more balanced in terms of the pass.
Yeah.
This is still a run offense. It's still an offense that plays a ton out of 12 personnel with 2 tight ends. All this could be because of the offensive line. That's the other thing. They have to build their game plan every week to compensate for the O-line. So, these are tough questions to answer. None of us are in the meetings, how they go about putting this all together. But, there are things that have to be addressed, and they're probably not going to be addressed through this season. You might need free agency and a draft and, although for that to happen. But I don't think you're going to run the same offense that they've been running for the last 4 or 5 years with Tyjae Spears.
Is there any position on that offensive line that isn't a disaster on film?
I mean, it's hard to get a read on Skoronski yet. I think he's up and down right now, but I don't think he's played enough. I don't think the sample size, Dawn, is large enough to make any meaningful judgment at this point in time. And I'm a big believer in, you guys know me. I don't make bold, controversial statements just for the sake of making them. So I don't think Skoronski I don't think you can evaluate him fairly yet.
Okay. How's Aaron Brewer doing at center?
He has some good run game snaps, but he also has some snaps where the fact that he's small shows up. So again, you got to live with that. He's your center. But he does. I think as a run blocker, he's probably a lot better than people might have thought. I think he does a really nice job, and I think he does a nice job on the combo blocks where he has to work to the second level.
What did you see on that Tannehill, that last interception before he left the game? I think clearly the ankle probably played into that, but I just am curious what you saw on tape.
Well, it was a deep corner route by Okonkwo, and Tannehill underthrew it by a good 5 yards. So, if he played the ball way out in front, I'm not saying it would have been complete, but it certainly wouldn't have been intercepted. But he left it significantly short. So it was just a poor ball placement throw. I think that was the play design. I think they wanted to take that shot because based on the route combination to that side of the field, they got him over the top of the corner Humphrey. Now, Humphrey wasn't playing a man-to-man, but based on the route combination where they grabbed the eyes of Humphrey, they were able to get Okonkwo over the top of him. Stone, the safety that replaced Hamilton, he ranged over. I think he replaced Hamilton. They ended up with, anyway, that's not important. But Stone ranged over, and I think if the ball was thrown out in front of Okonkwo, it had a chance, but he left it a good 5 yards short.
Yeah.
I know you got a roll, Cosell, but I would love to know what you thought about this defensive front. And as far as them not getting pressure on the quarterback, Vrabel came out and said I think the the opponent's quarterback has been hit twice.
In 3 games?
In 3 games, yeah.
3 times in 2 games.
Three times.
Their D-line has been a little bit of an issue given that, the quality of individual players. And, we've expected – one thing we expected was that defensive front would be, no one's dominant every single week, but that it would be a driving force of this team and be able to keep them in games. And, it's not quite happened the last couple of weeks for sure. And that's another thing they have to address. Obviously they're not going to start changing personnel because this is who they have. And they're good players as individuals, but they just haven't played up to the level that I think everybody has expected.
Right. Yeah, you said that specifically about Jeffrey Simmons in the Colts game. What did you see from this game from him?
Yeah, I mean, I would say overall, you're just not seeing a lot of really great individual plays, because a lot of times D-line is individual plays. Guys win and they make a play. I mean, obviously you can do things schematically with stunts and slants and pressures, but, a lot of times it's just guys winning one-on-one, and you haven't really seen much of that the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Greg Cosell on 3HL, executive producer and analyst for NFL Matchup. You can catch that this weekend on the ESPN properties. Producer of NFL Films for 44 years, at Greg Cosell on Twitter. Greg, thank you, man. Great stuff.
Good stuff today, Greg.
That's great.
I know it was kind of
I hope I didn't depress the audience, guys.
No, you
they're
got more clarity,
depressed.
I believe. So
they might be depressed anyway. So
Yeah. Trust me. Yes.
Yeah.
How about Nick Folk? He's doing pretty well.
There you go. They have a kicker.
I'm not. I'm not really up on the kickers and the long snappers. So
All right. Well, maybe we'll do that next time.
Do
Give
your
you some time
homework,
to work
Greg.
on it. Yeah. Thank you, Greg. Good stuff, man.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. There he is, Greg Cosell. What did you think? No real improvement, he said. Malik Willis, which is exactly what we said all week.
And got yelled at about it.
Yeah. 615-737-1043.